Hi everyone, and welcome to today's session entitled Mobile VoLTE Impact on Operator Network Planning and Revenue. My name is Joël. It's a pleasure to welcome you and to thank you for being with us today. Just before we start and I present you Nandan Naik, who is our presenter for today, I just have some housekeeping information to share with you. First off, is you can submit questions at any time during this session if you use the Ask a Question button that is located at the top left of your webinar player. And Nandan will answer your questions at the end of the presentation. You can also share today's webinar at any time with your network and your colleagues if you use the Share This button. This session will contain poll questions, and you'll be able to answer and view the results if you use the Vote button. You can download the slides, today's slides, under the Attachments button, and this is also where you will find the survey link. So we ask you to fill out our survey. This is very important for us. So we wish that you complete the survey at the end of the presentation. Again, it's located under the Attachments button, and under completion, you could win a $500 Visa gift card. The session will be made available for on-demand viewing immediately following the conclusion of the event, and you'll be able to access the recording if you use the same login information and link. And last thing, you can adjust the volume and the screen size by using the control buttons that are located on the lower right-hand side of the webinar player. Today's speaker is Nandan Naik, who's Product Line Manager at EXFO. He brings to EXFO more than 13 years of international experience. Nandan started his career in software engineering at Motorola India in September 2001 and has gained extensive experience over the past several years through various positions in systems engineering and integration, field application engineering, product management, and customer relations. So Nandan, here's to you.
Thank you, Joel. Welcome all. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all you there. Thanks for attending this webinar. As Joel mentioned, I'll be taking the next few minutes of your time to go through a few slides that I've put together for this webinar and essentially take us through a deployment workflow mechanisms that most of the operators around the world who are deploying VoLTE are using. We'll also go through a few different sections. So here is an overview of the today's webinar. We'll go through the market overview, typical deployment workflow mechanism that operators use. We'll also go through a recommended VoLTE workflow mapping, and we'll end with some solutions that we have been presenting to the market space and conclude at the end of the webinar. Right. With that, since we have limited time on this webinar, I will try to jump to the slides. Feel free to ask questions via your messaging app, and I'll be answering that at the end of the webinar. So switching to the market overview on the Voice over LTE section, here is a poll question that I just wanted to start off with. Do you expect Voice over LTE to be commercially successful as a traditional circuit switch voice in the coming years? And by coming years, we mean in the next 3 to 5 years. Please use your poll button and respond when you get a chance. All right. Well, the terrific response that we've got essentially indicates that there is going to be quite a lot of VoLTE deployments in the coming years. Here's an overview of the LTE subscriber market as posted by the Global Mobile Suppliers Association, or GSA. By 2018, we are going to see a ramp up of up to 1.3 billion users using LTE services. Now, at the same time, the Voice over LTE users, which is currently ongoing at a faster pace into multiple trials across 42 countries, over 80 operators are investing in different spaces right from the network rollout to lab trials to network rollouts to alpha beta trials, commercial deployments phases for voice over LTE. The subscriber volume by 2018 for voice over LTE is estimated to be around 325 million users, and the revenues generated from these are expected to be around 6.5 billion. Now, in the next couple of slides, you'll see that the total overall voice revenues for all these operators is a far more higher number as compared to the expected revenues that VoLTE is going to generate. And there are a few reasons for that we will actually go through. But at this time, the slide is more of an overview as presented to us from our research institutes. And this is an overall market trend that we seem to be seeing consistent across our operator deployments and customer relationships that we have. Compare this to the mobile VoIP or voice over IP applications such as Skype, Line, WhatsApp, etc. The total average revenues that are expected for the same time frame, that is 2018, is expected to be around $18 billion. And the native VoIP or native mobile VoIP, which is voice over LTE application, during the same time frame, is expected to be about $6.5 billion. And the overall voice revenues is expected, which is including the 3G, 2G, and any overall voice applications that are used, including voice over LTE, will be a global, overall inclusive number of $650 billion. Now, as you can imagine, it's a fragment of the numbers that the VoLTE will be able to generate in the overall voice revenue market segment. However, the important trend why operators need to switch to voice over LTE is listed in the next few slides. The most important reason why operators are trying to switch to a voice over LTE is really related to the usage of the frequency spectrum. The spectrum that is essentially used to provide faster data rates, voice, emergency services, they are all fragmented between the different technologies that exist today, that coexist today, rather. The 2G or GSM, 3G or WCDMA UMTS, and 4G or LTE, all are in the same spectrum, are using the same frequencies, bands. Now, with the advent of LTE, there are a multitude of other bands that have been made available by the regulatory authorities in the individual countries. However, a lot of countries do not have such a way to expand their LTE frequency spectrums. So reusing existing frequencies has become a norm as we talk to more and more operators around the globe. So the 2G frequencies, the 3G frequencies that have been used and which are coexisting have been refarmed to be reused for LTE spectrums as well. Now, the real reason for that is to essentially increase the data rates that the end users can obtain from each of these solutions, or voice over LTE solutions, video over LTE solutions, etc. Now, as we know that the voice over LTE is supposed to provide shorter call setup times, which means lower voice bandwidths in LTE as compared to 3G or 2G. It also helps with the simultaneous voice and data capabilities, keeping the users on the same radio access technology, which is LTE. And last but not the least is the refarming application. The voice quality is the second reason why users really and operators really have a push to move the users towards voice over LTE or towards LTE. The AMR wideband codecs provide the best audio quality due to higher sampling rates of up to 16 kilohertz as compared to the narrowband AMR codecs, which had a sampling rate of about 8 kilohertz. Also, due to noise suppression and echo cancellation being built in to these codecs, as well as to support the voice quality, this provides improved user experience as compared to traditional voice services. The common infrastructure for voice and data essentially provide a reason for the operators to jump onto this bandwagon, as well as for mobile chipset manufacturers to provide a smaller footprint as well as a higher real estate for essential components such as battery, which are becoming more important for data-hungry devices. Common infrastructure on the operator side or the network side would essentially mean software upgrades for the EPC cores to support voice over LTE. Simplified mobile RF front end, which is on the mobile devices side, would essentially provide larger real estate for essential applications or essential components such as battery, as well as lighter devices. And last but not the least is the ability to have seamless handovers between legacy technologies and LTE during a voice over LTE call due to a feature called as single radio voice call continuity. These are the reasons. These are some of the reasons that we have obtained, which list voice over LTE as the reason to go towards, as compared to the traditional circuit switched voice calls existing on the 3G and 2G networks. However, there are operator challenges, and there are business challenges in the operator side, even to this date, which are marked for overcoming in the coming years. And some of these are really crucial to the success of voice over LTE. In the particular case of the traditional voice market, which was circuit switched calls, to compare to that with the mobile voice over applications, which are free, such as Skype, Line, WhatsApp, they provide voice services on the data connections. However, the quality of the voice calls, as well as the non-dedicated bearers, which are promised by voice over LTE, make it hard for a consistency in the voice patterns as well as the capabilities to sustain the entire voice calls and the quality associated with it. Now, VoLTE roaming is still a challenge between different operators who provide voice over LTE services, even within the same country. If a person A is calling from under an operator A to an operator B network, the voice over LTE connections are not supported mostly. There is only one operator in the North America who is currently in the process of supporting it, or two operators who are supporting it in the North American continent. A similar challenge would exist for countries, would exist for operators operating in different countries, and even within the same country between the different operators. Last but not the least is the seamless handovers that the SRVCC promises from LTE to legacy calls are not up to date, or they are not working to the T as of today. And this causes a lot of customer complaints and can lead to customer churn. So these are all the operator challenges that they are facing. But at the same time, due to the tremendous pressure on the operators to either reform or to provide better voice qualities, as well as to keep the operators on the faster data rate technology such as LTE, it is necessary, or it has become mandatory for the operators to increase their competency in the voice and video offering using HD voice or high definition voice, using voice over LTE, using video, support RCS or IR94 specifications, at the same time to provide faster data rates, and also help with the battery life savings that the HD voice or voice over LTE promises. With that, the key business challenge that the operators face, which we listed in the last slide, can become critical for future VoLTE deployments. However, it is absolutely critical for the operators to get the VoLTE deployments right the first time. And why? Because the traditional voice market, which is, as we looked at, $650 billion in revenues, can turn into a nightmare for most of the operators if they are not going down the right path of validations during the different phases that are associated with VoLTE rollouts. And we'll go through the phases in the next few slides. But some of the most common causes for customer dissatisfaction and churn that the operators fear are listed here. They are for the voice over LTE scenarios. LTE and SIP signaling issues can drag call setup times. As of today, the call setup times for voice over LTE is supposed to be of the order of milliseconds as compared to the seconds that a traditional voice network take, which is 3G or 2G. With that, the signaling issues can lead to a longer call setup times as well as call drops is a concern and a growing concern amongst operators for a large-scale deployment. And this needs to be monitored at the fastest rate possible, if at all, in near real-time manner. The second and the most critical of the data path issues relate to the audio and mobility, which are tricky and long-lasting. I mean, as we see the 3G and 2G networks getting deployed for the last decades, last few decades, it has been really a problem even to this date for the audio and the mobility issues that are faced on the 2G and 3G networks. If that is any way of looking at from a historic point of view, voice over LTE audio and mobility issues could also linger around for a long period of time. So getting it right the first time absolutely becomes critical due to either call re-establishments, call drops, poor audio quality, which is nothing but annoying and mostly leads to customer hanging up the calls, right? And a call to the customer service centers. So with that, what we want to do is take a few minutes to go through a typical deployment workflow that the industry follows for regular deployments, and then take that same messaging across for a VoLTE deployment as well. So the typical network deployment phases from an operator standpoint include the network rollout phase, beta trials or friendly trials phase, commercial deployment phase, and while all this is going on, network optimization phase. Right? It's a continuous cycle for any new technology deployment as well as any new services that get deployed in an operator network, that they follow this life cycle. Now going to the next slide is a mapping of the same phases that we listed on the previous slide to some of the details, steps that the operators carry out during each of the phases. During the network rollout phase, in the case of a voice over LTE deployment, the typical steps that need to be followed include circuit switch fallback validations, LTE SIP signaling validations, audio quality validations, mobility validations, as well as failure analysis and isolation and troubleshooting, so that the network rollouts for voice over LTE networks are faster and quickly the operators can move to the beta-friendly trial phase. During the beta trials, the idea is to have a lot of friendly users, thousands of friendly users who get the services in a particular region, the first in the country, and with them you are able to monitor their usage of the particular service. In this particular case, in the case of voice over LTE, you can have devices which are with end users who are capable of using voice over LTE services and monitor their daily usage patterns using analytics from a service point of view, from a user's point of view, as well as the devices that are providing the services. Last but not the least, in this particular case, is still the ability to isolate and troubleshoot problems as and when they are reported by the friendly users, as well as as you roll out from the network rollout phase to the friendly trials phase. The commercial deployments is where the operators would take them live, take the voice over LTE services live, and here some of the key steps that the operators follow include user experience monitoring, service performance monitoring, trouble ticket validations from commercial users, as well as truck rolls to problem areas which cannot be resolved from an operations center. The network optimization is goes hand in hand with any of the previous phases that we talked about, where you are looking at more of a competitive benchmarking for different voice over LTE providers, as well as the different parameters and metrics that are used to validate the voice over LTE services. The performance monitoring of the voice over LTE calls, mobility, audio quality, etc. is also a key concern or a key step. Capacity monitoring for increasing, decreasing, maintaining the voice over LTE network capacity. And then networks and service improvement for new additions, new service additions, or for changes to the existing services that are provided by the operator. Now with that, what we would like to do is essentially take a few minutes to the recommended way we have put the mapping around the voice over LTE workflow deployment lifecycle. Typically from the 4 phases that we looked at in the previous slides, what I'll do is take a few minutes here to essentially elaborate on the different rollout mechanisms, the beta-friendly trial mechanisms, and the commercial deployments, as well as the optimization scenarios or the phases that the operators go through, and how each of these different phases need to be mapped with some kind of a voice over LTE test and measurement validation solution. Now in the case of network rollout, it is absolutely critical with the time to market as well as for increasing the subscribers' user experience before they go into friendly trials to have an automated mobile validations for LTE, circuit switch fallback, SIP, mobility, as well as the audio quality measurements pertaining to the handset devices. Automated analysis and reports need to be available within minutes so that the network rollout teams can do the tracking as well as validations for the deployments and the rollouts at a faster rate, and thereby obtaining the larger footprint that the operators have to go after for the commercial deployment in due course of time. Audio quality analysis using VoLTE is absolutely critical as well, and that's become an industry standard for determining the voice over LTE voice quality. Having even a sample of MOSCORE algorithms out there to validate voice over LTE subscriptions can be critical during all phases. And in the network rollout phase, really the idea is to have them being generated from the different mobile devices that are capable of supporting voice over LTE. Now during this phase, there are a lot of third-party tools that are already used by traditional operators from a legacy standpoint. And all those tools can be and have been integrated with voice over LTE capabilities. So the ability to integrate into those existing tool sets also is a key value add, so that you are not looking at more operating expenditures or capital expenditures. With that, the next phase is to have a rollout of the voice over LTE towards the beta and friendly users. Here, as we described earlier, automated VoLTE calls from the hundreds and thousands of users who are capable of providing you valuable data need to be is of key essence. And the ability to use that data and obtain real-time VoLTE analytics is absolutely critical for going commercial with voice over LTE. Today, a lot of operators have passive solutions where you have the voice over LTE calls going on and the ability to catch those events at a later point in time during a maintenance window. And this essentially causes a drag on the service validation and also from a problem isolation and troubleshooting standpoint. Whereas a real-time analytics platform can provide the ability to look at voice over LTE scenarios or subscribers usage as well as the device performance in near real time. That way operators can grade up to the challenge of commercially deploying voice over LTE. Again, there are third-party data tools which can be used for integration purposes, and these are absolutely critical even in this case, having the ability to use the existing tool set which are from an operator standpoint and the ability to integrate into them for the service validation. Going commercial requires us to have a continuous voice over LTE monitoring. That way, you have the ability to see wherever the operators are going commercial in different regions, different handsets, different user groups, etc. There, the ability to continuously monitor and validate the trouble tickets from the end user standpoint, as well as an automated failure analysis mechanism. That way, you don't have to have multitude of truck rolls to the problem areas. A key aspect of commercial deployments also relates to network segmentation, and we'll talk about the network segmentation in the next few slides. But the overall idea is to be able to slice and dice the entire network, the IMS, the voice over LTE network, all the way from the mobile devices to the IMS core, and be able to see the traffic flow as well as the latency, delay, packet loss, jitter measurements, etc., as and when they are pertaining to the individual segments of the traffic. And that is a capability that can be provided that can help improve the voice over LTE commercial deployments at a faster rate than they were for the 2G and 3G networks. Lastly, the network optimization phase, where we have the ability to provide benchmarking, performance monitoring that we listed from the previous slides, but they are absolutely critical in order to optimize a voice over LTE network. So the capability to have benchmarking for voice over LTE using mobile devices, or a combination of mobile devices and analyzer solutions or probes in the network, can help with the network optimization at a faster rate. So some of the key steps in the network optimization that is recommended include voice over LTE benchmarking, voice over LTE performance monitoring, and aided with automated analysis and reporting within minutes if possible. There are third-party RAN optimization tools in this particular space, such as Actix, Gladiator, etc., which are already providing much valuable data to operators. And the ability to use them to integrate the voice over LTE metrics absolutely become critical towards the seamless integration and service deployments. Now, with that being the case of the 4 phases that is recommended, what I wanted to do is take a few minutes to go through the actual rollout and optimization phases and present some cases that we've been able to put together in consultation with different operators around the globe. In the rollout and optimization phases, what we are really looking at are the 3 different cases, or the 3 different spaces when a voice over LTE calls are made, handled, and ended, terminated. During the call start, during the call, as well as when the call ends, there are a variety of metrics that are supposed to be collected. And these metrics help provide the operators as well as network planners with the ability to validate the services, as well as troubleshoot voice over LTE issues at a faster rate. The registration statistics, RRC connection statistics, ESM bearer information, RRC, as well as EPS bearer configuration, as well as the SIP and STP parameters, all pertain to the signaling aspects of a voice over LTE networks or voice over LTE calls. With a view of all of this, the planners can help with the rollout phase as well as the optimization phases for faster deployments. During the call, it is essential to get the MOS score, or the mean opinion score, using different mechanisms, as is the industry standard for voice over LTE, which is Polka mechanism. That is the one thing which, or that is the one algorithm which is absolutely used by everyone to obtain and present the Polka, to obtain the VoLTE MOS scores. However, during the same calls, there are going to be scenarios such as LTE handovers, circuit switch fallback, if not VoLTE, voice over LTE, as well as the layer 1, RLC, as well as the throughput measurements that need to be monitored. AMR codec stats, as well as the audio packet delays, delay variances on the Polka algorithms, etc., all contribute to the user experience. And these user experience metrics can be completely automated for end user monitoring. Last but not the least is the call stats, which essentially help with the block calls, the drop calls, the successful stats, and then the time and the call setup time and usage statistics can help with the overall feel for the call progress and the call during the call duration. Right. This essentially can be viewed one step further with a real example of the voice over LTE as they are relating to the mobile devices. Here is an example of a mobile device that has been decoded for layer 3 and SIP decoded messages and events relating to a voice over LTE call. The first picture is towards your left is a call and the layer 3 messages that are exchanged between the handset and the network in a voice over LTE network. LTE messages as well as SIP messages are all captured and analyzed using the handset devices. A SIP message itself, right from the start to the end, can also be looked at or monitored, and the details from this can be used by planners to continue the deployment as well as for isolation, trouble isolation and problem analysis. The event section provide a detail of the establishment of the call, the initiation, as well as the maintaining of the call, all the way through the life cycle of the call. Thereby, details around all of this can be used from multitude of such devices and uploaded to a central server where an automated server engine essentially decodes all this data, analyzes all this data, and presents an automated report, a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet report that includes a combination of all this data for the messages that are looked from the mobile side. Now, these are kind of the reports that are generated by each and every operator for their voice over LTE calls. And so one other aspect that is added to the rollout and optimization phase is essentially the ability to obtain the real-time maps of whether the calls are happening indoors or they are happening outdoors. Maps can be used to view the real location of the device as well as the coverage of the LTE, 3G, 2G, as well as voice over LTE to indicate the specific areas where improvements need to be made. All these reports, if they can be available, including the maps and the real-time view of the end user's devices within a few minutes, would be absolutely critical towards going commercial of voice over LTE. Now, within a few minutes again, the coverage, the quality of experience KPIs, as well as the radio KPIs associated with the voice over LTE calls, all can be combined together from the data that has been obtained from the mobile devices out there in the field. As the server, centralized automated server, is able to capture all this device data and essentially analyze that, you would be able to handle or look at all these automatically generated reports, whether for indoor cases or for outdoor cases, and use that as a means or the reference for future deployments as well as for problem isolation and troubleshooting. Last but not the least is a VoLTE scorecard, which can help provide a complete view of the VoLTE calls in progress as well as the completed calls as they occurred in the operator's commercial networks. Here, a lot of stats and metrics are collected all the way from the RF coverage quality, such as RSRP, signal to interference noise ratio, RSSI measurements, to the accessibility, retainability, and the handover metrics that are essential for the from an operator standpoint to gauge the voice over LTE validations. SIP metrics associated with the setup of the call, the handling of the call, as well as the termination of the call are also equally important to determine the time to establish, set up, and maintain the call. As well as the last but not the least is the audio quality metrics, which is a mean opinion score of the actual voice call. So with that, during the next couple of phases, which are the beta trial phases and the commercialization phases, where a lot of users are going to be having the operators deploying hundreds and thousands of devices to capture data from end user usage standpoint. Thereby, they can use that as a reference to determine the quality of the voice over LTE deployments. Now here is a typical VoLTE deployment slide. It's a little busy, but essentially it gets the overall flow down to the two cases that are mentioned on the left-hand side. In the case one, we are talking about voice over LTE devices which are capable of generating and receiving voice over LTE calls from one VoLTE device to another VoLTE device. With enabled solutions which are capable of monitoring both the sides, it is possible to obtain all statistics and metrics that we discussed in the previous slides right from the mobile devices as the calls traverse through the network elements. In this case, the mobile devices need to be equipped with some means to obtain the real-time usage as well as the real-time signaling and data path measurement metrics. In the case 2, voice over LTE calls can also be traversed along the network segments, such as a voice over LTE call generated from a mobile device and terminating towards a landline, or at certain strategic points in the network where you can place certain probes that can help with network segmentation. Network segmentation, as we discussed earlier, and we'll talk about in the next couple of few slides ahead, all relate to the ability of slicing and dicing the entire network for individual network segment packet loss, jitter, delay, variations, etc., relating to the particular service in mind. In this particular case, from a VoLTE standpoint, whether it is related to VoLTE troubleshooting for signaling, mobility, audio, failures, etc., can be obtained using the combination of these devices and probes. Last but not the least is the ability to have analytics-based approach to completely visualize from an operations center how the VoLTE deployments are going around in a typical network. With the ability to have dashboards, you can traverse each and every individual user's VoLTE call progress, as well as the device and the network behavior as and how the calls progressed during the entire duration of the call. In an example on the slide here is the 800 miles drive a person did from Boston all the way to Cleveland, where the network metrics are collected right from the handset devices and presented with the complete location details, such that they cover both the end user device service as well as the network health for a complete overview of the services deployed. In the case of voice over LTE as well, it is absolutely critical to understand how good the device usage is, or what is the device usage relating to as compared to the services offered by the operator, as well as what's the user experience at the end of the day for voice over LTE. With all this data, what are we doing? We can be using to build something called as a Service Experience Management Index, an index that is based on an aggregated performance of the deployed services. So whether it is voice over LTE, HTTP, ping, etc., those kind of services that are deployed in a traditional IP, mobile wireless IP deployment, or for any new services that are going to get deployed, whether it is voice over LTE, whether it is video over LTE, voice over Wi-Fi, RCS, over-the-top video, etc. Any new service that the operators want to deploy, they can be monitored on an aggregated basis across the spectrum of users using this index. So in the case of voice over LTE, quality of service is determined by a function which we define as a call setup time, the mobility, and the mean opinion score of the calls that are established. Similarly, an overall aggregated performance of the entire services that are deployed in the network can also be provided with something called as the Mobile Service Experience Management Index, which is a combination of all the services that are used to determine the overall network health. And this can help an operator at the CXO level to indicate or obtain an overall view of their network. Now, here is a poll question which is pertaining to the last few slides that we went through regarding which VoLTE deployment phases do you think operators face the most challenges in? Your options relate to the rollout phase, beta-friendly trial phase, or the commercial deployment phases. Where do you think are the most challenges operators are facing today or in the next few years to come? Please go ahead and provide your responses. All right. With that, what we have seen is the most challenges that operators face are in the beta-friendly phase and the commercial rollout phase, where most of the issues and challenges that the operators are facing. Right. Really, the commercial deployment phase is where we are really seeing a hit on the deployments going slow for voice over LTE. So here was all the previous slides that was taken from an overall industry standpoint for commercialization of voice over LTE, right from the mobile devices, which is where the end users truly experience the VoLTE call experience. At EXFO, we have devised a multitude of solutions to help with the commercial deployments of voice over LTE solutions or voice over LTE feature. These pertain to not necessarily only one value add, but multiple value adds, all a part of the portfolio for VoLTE solutions, all the way from the handsets to the networks and network elements, as well as dashboard analytics. So on this busy slide here, what I want to highlight is a segmentation overview of the entire VoLTE end-to-end and how to go about assuring that. With a dashboard analytics, we provide the ability to minutely overview all the network elements essential for VoLTE deployments, whether it is the mobile devices, all the way which are providing the VoLTE calls or providing the VoLTE services to end users, to the network elements that are necessarily facilitating the voice over LTE calls, signaling as well as data calls, all the way to the IMS. With the key aspect associated with the user data, which is the true customer experience monitoring that assures that the end users are seeing what the operators are providing for. In this particular case, just having the end user experience for voice over LTE doesn't translate to fixing problems associated with VoLTE calls on the network side. So a true representation of the segmentation would require some elements on the mobile devices, some elements on the network elements, such as our verifier probes, which are capable of supporting voice over LTE, as well as passive solutions which can collect and monitor data coming from the hundreds and thousands of users of voice over LTE calls. So the business case associated with voice over LTE from an EXFO solution standpoint is really highlighted in these 3 bullet points. Reduction in the manual voice over LTE test and analysis times with automated single-click acquisitions and automated reports right from the mobile devices. That way, the end users don't have, network rollout teams as well as optimization teams don't have to go about doing a lot of manual work. Automated analysis and automated voice over LTE call testing can help facilitate and the right usage of the time for analysis and troubleshooting purposes, thereby the time to market and the normalization times for voice over LTE is increased. Similarly, the ability to use highly skilled RF engineers only for most relevant work rather than using them for even the drive testing as well as walk testing as well as the service validation performance testing can all be avoided by using the automated solutions that we've built essentially to maximize the RF expertise for individual RF engineers and then use non-traditional field personnel such as college graduates or new to market jobs personnel who are not necessarily aware of the technology as well as the capabilities of the solutions, and they can be used to go about running tests and providing data to the end user, to the highly skilled RF engineers. Last but not the least is the ability to reduce the capex by having your own devices and the applicability of the EXFO solutions on those devices to provide you the actual user experience, as well as the quality of service metrics that help you relate to the voice over LTE calls. The same handsets can support multitude of solutions, such as what we call as Mobile Explorer and the mobile agents, which can provide unique information related to the quality of service, quality of experience, and the signaling RF as well as the radio analysis associated with voice over LTE calls. With a combination of this, what we are proposing here from a mobile device standpoint is the mobile agent as well as the mobile explorer solution, which have certain salient features associated with them. The mobile agent is truly a customer service experience management and a service experience management solution that can be installed on any handset device out there which is capable of supporting voice over LTE. With that, we can run automated voice calls, voice over LTE calls, and obtain stats or statistics for real-time usage, device performance, as well as network health monitoring. The Mobile Explorer, on the other hand, is a network rollout and network optimization solution for macros, small cells, and walk test analysis, associated with, provided with the unique ability to lock to PCI for LTE, as well as for automated analysis for the call stats, the handovers, as well as for different services that are deployed, whether they are simultaneous tests such as voice over LTE along with the regular data, or the overall view of the mobile device solutions is to be able to provide a roadmap for any new services that the operators are deploying, such as VoLTE in today's case, or continuing down the line to RCS, EMBMS, video, etc. Our promise is to be able to have a unique proposition out there that can provide a combined view of the user experience as well as the signaling and the data metrics that are absolutely required and critical for service deployments, such as voice over LTE. With that, we conclude the webinar by this last slide, which is really our promise to the voice over LTE end-to-end assurance. Zero-touch provisioning, validation, and monitoring using a comprehensive setup helps us increase user footprint into the subscriber end-user base such that you can monitor the true customer experience of the end-user devices. With a comprehensive active and passive solutions portfolio, including the capability of bringing your own device, active and passive probes, as well as passive analyzers to collect and represent all the voice over LTE data, with a unique addition of dashboard analytics, which is a combination of all the data accumulated from the mobile devices, from the active, passive probes, as well as any other network elements which are non-centric solutions can also be used to pull and present data for voice over LTE end-to-end assurance. With that, the real differentiation that we would like to bring to the market is to provide mean time to repair by analyzing VoLTE issues in real time. The segmentation analysis from the mobile devices all the way to the IMS core for seamless voice over LTE monitoring is also a key aspect that we are working on, as well as we are bringing it to a lot of live deployment networks. EXFO's offering is the ability to provide fast and cost-effective VoLTE service deployment monitoring for all the operators out there, as well as the ability for service providers to monitor their end-user devices and speed the time for revenue, and as well as normalization for the complex voice over LTE deployments. Thus, the last statement that I would like to make on this is we truly want to optimize the customer's voice over LTE quality of experience using the solutions that are out there and which can help with the commercialization of voice over LTE services. All through the different slides, as we presented the market overview, we see that the voice over LTE market is here to stay, and it is going to pick up more and more subscribers as the LTE subscribers keep growing, so that at some point in time there will be a convergence of the LTE subscribers and the voice over LTE users towards a common goal, which is a simplified approach to the LTE networks for voice and data services. Thank you all for your time. I truly appreciate you taking the time to go through these slides with me. If you would be kind enough to go ahead and fill out a survey at the end of this webinar, as Joel pointed out earlier, as well as I'd be more than happy to take any other questions that you might have at this time. Please go ahead and start posing any questions for the remainder of the time. Joel, do we have, can you suggest questions?
Yes, the first question is, will mobile devices be sufficient to test and validate voice over LTE commercially?
All right, thank you. So yes, the answer is we believe that operators will require mobile devices as well as a whole range of other solutions such as active, passive, and mobile devices, all the way to validate the VoLTE networks in a commercial environment. Now, this is truly due to the commercial complex nature of the signaling, audio, as well as the IP network interfaces, which all contribute to the deployment challenges the operators face in a real VoLTE deployment. So, with that in mind, I would say strongly that the mobile devices itself will only be helpful to a certain extent, but the true user experience, the quality of experience, as well as the end user, as well as the network deployment challenges can all be resolved with a combination of test and measurement solutions.
We have another question. When do you expect voice over LTE to be commercial outside of USA?
Sure. That's an excellent question, because that's truly what we have actually seen till date, that USA has been the only country where all the 3 out of the 4 operators have really gone commercial in a big way. And by the end of 2015, they intend to increase their footprint for voice over LTE services across the entire country. Now, along with that, there are 15 operators, including the 3 in US, who have commercially deployed VoLTE around the globe, and more than 80 are going around in different stages, as we saw from the previous slides. But in the timeline for commercial deployments, what we see is that by 2015, most of the Europe and Asia Pac will be trialing in different stages voice over LTE deployments or rollouts, as well as beta trials. And then around 2016 timeframe is really when these regions, different regions, that includes Latin America as well, to kick off and go in commercial for voice over LTE.
Thanks, Nandan. We have more questions coming up. The next one is, what is the role of passive voice over LTE analyzers, and do EXFO offer those as well?
Sure. Yes, the EXFO offers passive solutions for voice over LTE analyzers. The role of voice over LTE analyzers for passive solutions is really to be able to take all the calls that the end users make in the active network and go through the call data records and present an overview of the signaling, the data, as well as the audio quality and any issues that the end users or subscribers face in the live commercial networks. So that's the idea of passive analyzers. EXFO does offer passive analyzer solutions in the context of voice over LTE to be able to collect all these metrics and present in a unique way how the call progressed, how the voice over LTE calls progressed during the entire duration of the call setup times.
The next question is in two parts. An end-to-end voice over LTE service assurance solution needs to include IMS core. Does EXFO integrate IMS relative to an end-to-end solution? And this was the first part. And the second part is, how is EXFO with this solution different than other voice over LTE end-to-end solutions such as NetScout?
Sure, that's a great question. So the first part of the question, which is related to the IMS core monitoring, really EXFO does offer the our verifier probes that can be placed at strategic points in the network, such as our BV3100s or BV110s. These are active verifier probes that are capable of supporting voice over LTE, and they can be deployed in commercial IMS networks. That way, you are able to monitor the voice over LTE transactions pertaining to individual users and subscribers in that space. Now, taking that same message across the different network elements, such as the EPC, the eNodeBs, and all the way to the mobile devices, is where we provide a comprehensive solution as compared to any other competitors in that space, including NetScout. The ability to have mobile device agents that are capable of collecting user data statistics and usage metrics right from the handset devices, as well as obtaining all the radio signaling parameters that are associated with the mobile devices and their interaction with the eNodeBs is also something we capture. And then moving along the transition path for the voice over LTE signaling and data elements, such as the eNodeBs and the IMS core, we can monitor end-to-end, we can provide end-to-end assurance across all the interfaces using a truly segmented, providing a truly segmented view with our mobile device solutions, the active probes, as well as our passive analyzers and analytics.
Okay, well, this was our presentation. For the questions who did not have been answered, Nandan will answer via email. So thanks everyone for being there. Nandan, you want to say a few conclusion words? Yep.
Thank you, Joel, and thanks everyone for your time. I truly appreciate you taking this last 60 minutes of your time, valuable time in fact, to go through our presentation. And feel free to send your questions if post-webinar, post this call as well to Joel or to any one of us, and we'll be more than happy to respond to it. Also feel free to go through our other webinar slides that EXFO has put out there relating to whether it is voice over LTE or some of the other deployment challenges, some of the other service issues, assurance challenges that operators and end users are facing, and how we can be of assistance in any of those cases. But truly, thank you for your time. I appreciate your being here.